So Matthew Murray is asking, what do you think Disney should really do to fix Imagineering and allow more non-IP attractions to spring up? I honestly don't think a change of CEO in this current economic climate will do much to achieve it, because if Chapek is a data guy, which he is, so will most CEOs, even Brian Roberts of Comcast. A complete cultural change within the entertainment industry is what I think is really needed. Dre, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Matthew's comment, question? Where are you kind of at with this?
Well, we just got done with, two brands being brought to life, right? Fast and Furious and the world of Nintendo. And it's like, well, why are those chosen over any other IP or non-IP? It's that built-in audience, it's that capitalization of the built-in audience. And when you have so many different outlets or content production houses that can produce whatever they want, what makes a major studio stand apart? It's IP. It's their content library. That's it. Right. I mean, Netflix can hire anybody to create content on their platform, but to really stand out, these major studios are gonna dig deep in that IP well. That comes in the form of both what we see on the film side, the streaming side, and the theme park side. I mean, that's just what it is right now. I think the only way, what can Imagineering do? Look, honestly, if you're looking at non-IP driven content, which I don't think is going to be anywhere in the near future, it's got to be in the form of getting the prices down for projects, eliminating this red tape, and allow more to come to fruition. Honestly, it's because these things are so expensive. Who in their right mind would necessarily place their bets on something that's non-IP driven when you have so much IP to pull from that will book vacation packages in the form of attaching an IP to it off the bat? I mean, it doesn't make much sense. Whereas if you can, reduce the price of some of these projects and really get some more of this stuff made, maybe it does come to a point where, oh, we don't quite have an IP that fits here, so maybe we'll make a new one. Boom, there you go. You have a new attraction built around something that doesn't have an IP attached to it. But that really, I mean, that's a pipe dream at this point. To quote our Italian friend that we just quoted before.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting too, because the IP thing has always been a thing. I mean, even when Walt Disney created Disneyland, Frontierland was a land built to kind of showcase his characters like Davy Crockett. You had Adventureland, which is very much inspired by his True Life Adventure series.
Yes,
Fantasyland is all the fairy tales and all that stuff. Right. It was very much a place where you can live his creations on film and on the small screen. It's always been that way. And so basically what we've seen over the last 60 plus years is an evolution of that original concept by Walt Disney. But it's at its core, it's still kind of the same. It really hasn't changed, and it evolves here and there, and it kind of maybe takes a little bit of a different form. But at the end of the day, it isn't vastly different from what Walt Disney kind of brought forth in 1955. It really isn't.
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead, Wizard.
I was gonna say, thinking from a normie perspective, since we're talking about normies so much, do they care? Right, the norm, not the case. The norm. In fact, they may want even more IP, and I say this because my own friends
are absolutely do.
They're like, man, Disney should build this land. We should build a land based on this, and not saying they should build an original shot like Haunt Mystic Manor. No, like we should build a land based on, I don't know, random movie Encanto or something. Yeah, they want more IP, and so Disney will definitely go and give it to them because the IP brings the money, and I mean, think about going back quickly to Universal Hollywood, Harry Potter, right? Harry Potter. My stepmom went to Universal, I think she said 2004. took her kids, right? Came, did the thing, came out, didn't care for it, right? A few things, 2019, where you went, a family from France came in, they were choosing between Universal and Disneyland, and I guess the dad didn't like Disney, so they went to Universal instead. So they brought me along, and we went. And then my stepmom, first time back since 2004, didn't even go inside Harry Potter, but she looked at Harry Potter and looked at that vantage point to the couch. She was like, and she came out saying, you know what? I'd buy it if I lived there. She lives in Vegas, but she said, if I lived here, I'd consider getting a pass to the park to come back because Harry Potter was her favorite ride and she loved walking around the land. 2004, that obviously wasn't there. She would never have gone back, but Harry Potter, she would consider getting an annual pass. That's, I feel like, how most people are thinking because it's whether it's their favorite franchise or something that just looks, that's an example of something that's executed really well that like Cars Land, she doesn't care for the Harry Potter movies, but like Cars Land, it's just done really well, so it brings people back. So I think, the non-IP is just never going to pop up because it brings new people in, not just theme park people. Because Matthew, love you, Matthew, but you're going to go back to Disneyland no matter what they do. So, yeah, I mean, I would too. So, I mean, it's all about bringing those new people in, because, and you need something like they're not going to know Mystic Manor most likely, but they'll know Nintendo or Pirates or Encanto. Or like, oh, there's an Encanto land. Great, let me go get a ticket. Oh, this is so cool. I want to come back again. How much are the annual passes? What? Wow, I'm blocked out the whole summer. Let's still get one anyway. Let's go. Or let's go next year.
Yeah, well, and you hit the nail on the head, Ethan, when you say that there's this gap, there's a divide between the normies and what you call the crazy Disney people. Like, there is that gap because I think that the fans, the super fans, as Chapek calls them, they're kind of in this bubble where it's like it's a whole other universe. I mean, it's this, like, you start to kind of believe that the kind of the echo chamber after a while, after being in that bubble. Normies don't want like non-IP stuff. They just don't, they don't want that. And it's not something that like Ethan, you brought up perfectly. They're not like clamoring for like a Mystic Manor or anything like that. They want the Frozen ride. They want the Marvel ride, the Star Wars ride, the Minion ride. They want Harry Potter and Fast and Furious. They want these brands, and then you go on like Twitter or something and you see like, the Diz Twitter folks, they're like, oh, nah, it's all about the non-IP. Well, I know that's cool for the super nerd. It's great, but the normies don't care. They just don't. But go ahead, Vash. I'm sorry.
They don't. And every single recorded instance after Walt's Day of infusing these parks with IP or non-IP attractions has been to kind of fill a gap in their IP line, right? It's like okay, we don't necessarily have an IP that really fits for Mystic Manor or Grizzly Gulch or Expedition Everest, and it's like, okay, let's do something original here, and sometimes it works, like in the form of Mystic Manor and Expedition Everest, and sometimes it really doesn't, like in the form of, I don't know, Epcot when it first came out, right? It's like, okay, we're gonna strip all IP away from here. This is really gonna be a forward-thinking place, and it's like, that didn't quite work. And what did Michael Eisner do? As soon as he gets in, we gotta get the characters in there. Let's take Mickey and Minnie and the Fab Five, and let's put some spacesuits on them, and let's get them in there. And that's what they did, Captain EO and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
like they really infused it with IP, and so. The Imagineers, I mean, even Tony Baxter, it's like, hey, look, listen, the IP is a shortcut that we can use as creatives to really, bring that emotion to these attractions, which we really couldn't before. Look at Snow White and its Enchanted Wish. I mean, would a non-IP thing bring that same emotion to you? I really doubt it. I really doubt it. And they've had some failures on this front too. They really wanted to bring in the Alien IP for what is it? Alien Encounter, right? And Michael Eisner and George Lucas, they were like, maybe we shouldn't do that. And they went non-IP, and it really failed because you need those kind of setups that the Alien IP would have provided. But when you take that out, now you have to go without. And so they really, I mean, we've seen IP included in portions of this park that really, I don't know, they're kind of stretching it. Sometimes it works in the form of Tower of Terror, right? We don't have an IP that necessarily provides for that in the park. So let's go out and let's get the Twilight Zone to kind of make this all make sense. And then you have a Rock and Roller Coaster with Aerosmith. It's like, oh, you know, that's not great. But the best versions of non-IP work were really from Walt Disney's era. And Walt Disney, there's not a lot of those guys, walking around. I don't know if you noticed. No. He's kind of a once-in-a-century kind of person and really understands, really knows what people want, right? So he could do a Haunted Mansion. He could do a Pirates of the Caribbean, do it very, very well. But even in that era, you go back to the survey results, and what did people find as their favorite land? Fantasyland. Why? Because you could walk in to those worlds. You can sail above London. You can have a crazy time with Mr. Toad, and people really appreciated it, even all the way back then. What is it all the incentive to go forward with a non-IP attraction? Not much, but there is enough money attached to these projects where it's not even a consideration, honestly.
Well, and it's all about execution, because you can put an attraction that's it started off as a non-IP, Pirates of the Caribbean, up against an IP attraction like Indiana Jones. I think both are equally amazing in different ways. One is based on a movie, one was not based on a movie when it opened. So as long as you do these IPs, these IP attractions, and you do it well, and the execution is there, no problem. It's not the IP that's the problem. It's the execution that is potentially the problem.
Absolutely.
No,
and even the people who want non-IP attractions, you ask them what they want, they still say, "Oh, I want that Mary Poppins ride. Right. I want this IP representative." And it's like, wait a minute. What? Because honestly, it's really hard to come up with a concept that doesn't feature an IP. Let's be honest here.
It's hard.
These mega corporations, these bean counters and so forth attached to them. I mean, they're looking for a return on investment, and what better way to do that than with something that has a built-in audience right from jump? And that's just the economic realities of it. That's just what it is. And even people, like I said, even people who don't want IP, they want IP. Go ahead, Wizard.
Yep.
It's funny. Go back to your Disney versus Disney criticism, Universal non-criticism comment.
Sure.
Universal doesn't put any non-IP. Whatever seems to be okay with. Okay with that one. They're like, where's the Disney non-IP? But Universal, they say, oh, we should put this IP in this attraction. There should be a Shrek ride, and there should be a this ride. But the same people be like, non-IP here, non-IP there for Disney parks. It's so funny.
Well, it's wild. And I got to say, honestly, like Universal is really in the perfect position because they're big enough where they're making money, right? They're making a lot of it. But they're not Disney, so that they kind of fly under that radar. Like they're not under the same microscope. So they got the freedom to kind of do what they want, They don't have to speak out against the Florida bill. Disney does.
Exactly. Right.
It's like everything is like they're in that perfect Goldilocks zone.
Universal. I mean, Disney's like the Great White, or the whale shark, and no, Disney's the whale shark, and then Universal is like the fish that clean the shark. They kind of ride the tail.
Exactly. They ride the wave, right? It's like NASCAR. You're sailing behind the guy in front, but and you're catching his draft, right? So, but it's interesting. The one time that Universal didn't go with an IP. Well, there's one coming up, which I'll get to, but it's the Lost Continent area as part of Islands of Adventure. And there was like a show that was part of that. And then I guess there was Sinbad. Both those things didn't really last for very long. Both these things are inoperable as far as I know. Dueling Dragons, right? But that's like a coaster, right? And then we see the modern version of that with this kind of space-themed coaster. It's supposed to have an IP as attached to Epic Universe itself, but how long until that is overlaid with an IP? That's what I'll ask you.
Right. No, 100%. It's interesting. This whole IP discussion is fascinating, and it's like the forever conversation, the evergreen conversation amongst the super fans. But the normies are like, we don't give a shit. We want that Frozen ride. Come on, where's Anna and Elsa?
They do. And but I will say though, I mean, if there's one piece of device that I can or that I can provide or something that I would think that WDI has to change, and maybe that amounts to more attractions being built in the first place, and maybe that includes non-IP attractions. Man, they gotta get the spending under control. They gotta get the red tape under control. It's I'm now hearing from multiple people where it's just like, I don't even bother attempting to fill a role at WDI because I know that my creative pursuit won't be pursued, right? That my project, my concept won't be taken up because it's just the amount of red tape right now. It's just where concepts go to die. Whereas even Jason Sorrell and some other notable Imagineers who have a fondness for WDI and WED and so forth, they've moved on to Universal Creator because they're actually building right now. It's something.
And that's the thing, and that's the problem, because if Chapek were to go in there, right, and go, we're going to have to cut the red tape, cut the spending, he would be demonized by the fan base. Oh, look at this guy. He's cutting the budgets. But you have to cut the budgets. You have to some degree. It's bloated. It costs way too much to build anything through Imagineering. They have to cut that. They have to.
So I heard an analogy that somebody used. It's like, dude, it's like money laundering. So much money going through there. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is. It's nuts. Some of these things are so unbelievably expensive. It's like, guys, what are you doing? You know?
Right.
Now, I thought that Chapek was doing kind of a version of this with the Lake Nona move. It's like, do it under the auspices of this move, and in that way you can kind of cut down. And as people move over, we can kind of restructure as we go along here. And it was kind of an ingenious idea. It's just that they did it over the course of like a couple of months, and it's like, maybe you should have spread that out over a couple of quarters at least. I don't know. For me personally as a fan, I'm not super concerned with the IP, non-IP conversation. For right now, it's that creative pit, that deluge that's at stake here.
Yep, 100%.